The Phoenix Suns, the team that no doubt has the most talented roster in the NBA. Well, not roster, starting lineup in the NBA. You got DeAndre Ayton. You have Bradley Beal, who they just acquired this summer. And then, of course, you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. The real question is if the Phoenix Suns can win a championship this year. This is their year. Potentially next year they could do it as well. But I think this year is going to be the prime year for them to do it. And if they don't, the season is going to be a failure. There's no workaround. The Phoenix Suns have to win a championship. Otherwise, it was a failure of a season. So let's go deeper into the Phoenix Suns team and franchise as a whole. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, but the Phoenix Suns are one of the few franchises in the NBA that has never won a championship, along with my Minnesota Timberwolves. But their franchise they've had amazing teams. They've had Steve Nash, they had the Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire area. They went to the championship 3 years ago when they faced the Bucks. They were up 2-0. And then they lost 4 games in a row. But going into the roster, as I mentioned, they're 4 prime-time all-star, all-NBA players, besides maybe DeAndre Ayton, who hasn't made any of those yet. But Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker are all NBA players, all all-star players. And DeAndre Ayton definitely has the potential and the talent to be in that category as well. And they're all getting paid close to max contracts. I mean, Devin Booker, he's getting paid like $60 million a year for the next 4 years. Bradley Beal is getting paid $55 per year. Same with Kevin Durant, and then DeAndre Ayton's getting paid $35 a year. Other than those 4 players salary-wise, no one's getting paid anything. Everyone else is on like league minimums or veteran minimums. The second highest is, besides those 4, the guy who comes after those is Eric Gordon, who's getting paid $3 million. So it's a big gap. It's a big discrepancy pay-wise from their 4 best players to their next. And speaking of Eric Gordon, let's go over the bench, because whether Suns fans want to admit it or not, this is what is going to determine if they win a championship or not. This is what's going to determine if they can go long into the season, if they can have close games, win games without having the need to play all 4 of their best players every single night. Because that's not going to happen. I mean, unless you're Kevon Looney, you're not playing 82 games a season. It's just not going to happen. I mean, Kevin Durant, he's injury-ridden. And then the other 3, they're not playing all 82 games. So let's go over the bench. You got Eric Gordon, like I mentioned. He's getting a little older. He's good. There's no doubt about that. Eric Gordon is very good as a bench player, but that's all you're really going to get from him. I mean, he can stretch the floor. He's developed since he came into the league as a great 3-point shooter. He usually is just a spot-up shooter. His averages have gone down every single year, which is going to be due to age. I mean, he's 35, turning 35 this season. This is probably going to be his last stint in the NBA. But he does shoot well from the 3. Last year on the Clippers, he played 22 games. He shot 42% from 3. And all the other ones, he's around 36%. So he's going to be very useful for the Phoenix Suns, especially in the 3-point line and being able to just stretch the floor. And he's a solid defender. He's not bad. He's not horrible. I mean, definitely doesn't have that lateral quickness like he used to, so he's going to get blown by a little bit. But as we're going to see as we dive deeper into this roster, defense is going to be a big focal point for this team. And speaking of defense, the next guy on the bench I'm going to cover is Josh Okogie. He's probably their best defender besides, I mean, Kevin Durant, he's a sneaky good defender. People don't give credit for Kevin Durant's defense. He's long, he's quick, he can block shots, he can block jumpers, more importantly. Devin Booker has improved amazing on his perimeter defense as well. Bradley Beal, DeAndre Ayton, I mean, DeAndre Ayton's he's a good center, but I would say primarily his game is more on offense. But Josh Okogie has been in this league for a couple years, and that's what he's known for. He's known for defense. He's insanely athletic. He's a great perimeter defender. He's not going to give you much on offense because his jumper is horrible. But he can drive to the paint with his athleticism. So, I mean, you got a plus there. And as far as good bench players go, that's about it for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, I'll just list off the others. You got Damian Lee, who, I mean, he can be a decent three-point shooter at times. Keita Bates-Diop hasn't done much in his career. Drew Eubanks, he's done a little. Chimezie Metu, who's an athletic, lankier guy. Yuta Watanabe, who's improved a little bit over his career. They got Bol Bol, which I know Phoenix Suns fans are probably raving over because, I mean, just a couple of years ago, he was like, everybody was watching his highlight tape in high school. He was projected to be the next big thing. I mean, he's lanky. He's over 7 feet tall. He can shoot. He has handles. But so far in his career, I mean, Bol Bol has not done well. I mean, it could be due to lack of opportunity. It could. I mean, last year was his greatest year by far. He averaged 9 points per game, but he was on the Orlando Magic, so keep that in mind. And he's going to be under DeAndre Ayton. I don't know how he's going to work into the rotation with DeAndre Ayton. I don't know if they're going to play both at the same time, especially since Bol Bol can play. I mean, I guess he could be like a power forward type player. I don't think DeAndre Ayton can, but Bol Bol could, he can move out a little bit. You could put him on the 3-point line. He can shoot a little bit. But I just don't think Bol Bol is going to be that player that Phoenix Suns fans think he's going to be, especially since he's not going to probably get that many minutes. I mean, even Drew Eubanks might be getting more minutes than him. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, they're only paying him $2 million a year. They got Jordan Goodwin. I'm not even going to speak on that because I don't really even know who that is. I'm sorry. I'm not a big Jordan Goodwin fan. All right. Then they got Ish Wainwright, Kamara. I don't know who that is. They have Saban Lee, who's a two-way player. So there's your bench for the Phoenix Suns. And like I just said before, their season is going to revolve around this bench and how well they can produce. If this bench can produce, the Phoenix Suns are my favorite. They're my favorite team to win. If this bench can just be decent, they don't have to be like top 15 benches in the league. They can be top 20. And I'm calling the Phoenix Suns the title favorites. But from what I'm looking at, that's not what it's going to be. Because you cannot play Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton 48 minutes a night for 82 games. That's just nonsensical. It's not going to happen. So you're going to need some of these guys to produce. I mean, if I'm looking at some of these guys that I think could break out, could be the prolific sixth man on the Phoenix Suns, I'm thinking Bol Bol. I'm thinking Eric Gordon. I'm thinking Josh Okogie. But if those guys were on other teams, is that what you want? Is that who you want your sixth man to be? I don't know. Second main talking point I want to go about with the Phoenix Suns. Who's the point guard? I just went through that whole roster, and I don't see a single point guard. The guy who will bring up the ball, call plays, be the main distributor on the team. I don't see that player. So for when I look at this team, I mean, there's still an offseason left. They could still get a guy, I guess. But right now, at this very moment, who is their point guard? I mean, I guess you could. The league is going in a way to where there isn't really positions. It's positionless basketball. So from what I'm seeing from this roster, it's going to be Devin Booker. It's going to be Kevin Durant bringing the ball up. Bradley Beal, possibly as well. Those three guys right there are your point guard type players who are going to have to be the point guard for this team. Damian Lillard's not a point guard. Eric Gordon's not a point guard. No one on their bench is their point guard. So who is starting with those four players? Who is going to be the fifth guy in that team? And that's crucial for their team as well, because those players are going to be getting double teamed. And you know who's going to be the double team defender? It's the guy who's guarding that fifth man. It's the guy who's guarding Josh Okogie, Eric Gordon, or Bol Bol. So you're going to need someone who can do something on offense. And I just don't see that. That's a major point for the Phoenix Suns that they need to be able to address. Third and final point is the head coach. I was bewildered, frankly, when the Suns fired Monty Williams. I get you didn't win the championship last year, but he had like 20 games to work with Kevin Durant. You're not going to get the team chemistry, and you're not going to get the offense and defense down in that amount of time. That's what the season is for, and he wasn't there for the whole season. Okay? And then you go out and you hire Frank Vogel. I mean, does he have the pedigree of a championship coach? I don't know. He has a championship, but he was also with LeBron James and AD. And we all know LeBron James is the coach on his team. What are you going to tell LeBron about the scheme that your team needs to play? All right? So was Frank Vogel really the guy? And then they fired him. Frank Vogel hasn't had a job for 2 years. So what are we doing? All right? What are we doing? Oh, and sorry. Kevin Durant had 8 games in the regular season for the Phoenix Suns last year. 8. And you expect Monty Williams to be able to turn that into a championship team? The whole team got turned around when Kevin Durant joins the team. Everybody doesn't know their role anymore. And Monty Williams was the most winningest coach with his tenure with the Phoenix Suns. So I just don't understand why you fire him. So those are my main 3 points with the Phoenix Suns. Head coach, bench, and point guard. And if we're being real, point guard, probably not the biggest deal because you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So that's low on the threshold of what I'm concerned about for the Phoenix Suns. Head coach, that's a little bit lower as well because you have the talent. If you have the talent, I think a coach doesn't matter as much. He still matters, but I think a coach matters much more when you don't have the talent. So your scheme is what makes you win, not the talent. But they have the most talent in their starting lineup, even without a fifth guy. But their main issue for me is their bench. I just don't see because obviously they're probably going to figure something out where at least 2 of their star players are on the court at all times, out of those 4 players that I've talked about previously. But still, then you got 3 guys on your bench. Are you going to be able to make sure that those 3 guys are doing what they need to do so you can win basketball games? Are you? Because when you start going to your bench for the Phoenix Suns, defense is going to be a problem. Defense is probably going to be a problem on your starting lineup. So now, I've talked about what I think that they can improve on, obviously. So let's talk about the things real quick that they don't need to. Offense. They're going to be the best offensive team in the NBA. I have no doubt. They're going to be the highest scoring team in the NBA, no doubt. Bar none. That's why I focus so much on defense, because I don't think they're going to have a problem on offense at all. Devin Booker can get you buckets. Kevin Durant can give you buckets. Bradley Beal can give you buckets. DeAndre Ayton can sometimes give you buckets. So they're going to have no problem at all on offense. That's good, because if you have an offense that good, you're bound to win games. Like, if they don't accomplish any of the three things I previously just stated, they're still a playoff team. But I think the three things that I suggested that they improve on are things that are going to take them over the top, and they're going to finally win a championship for Phoenix. Right now, I still have the Nuggets in the West to go to the finals. I mean, the Nuggets beat them last year with almost the same squad besides Bradley Beal. So we'll see what happens there. Other than that, in the West, I don't think there's going to be another team that's going to be able to contend with the Suns or the Nuggets. It's going to be those two teams in the conference finals, for me at least. When it comes to the East, and if they make it to the finals, it's going to be the Boston Celtics, it's going to be the Sixers, maybe the Heat again, but I'm not high on the Heat as going into the next year. But we'll see what happens. In no way, shape, or form do I think that the Suns are going to be bad at all. I just don't know if they're going to be able to maximize their potential and win a championship.